think what the Supreme Court just did with their recent ruling does remove another check on Donald Trump's powers. I think you're right. I think there are things about your comment. I'm going to put the full thing up here that you're right about. You came in peace, and I'm coming in peace as well. And I think this is the thing with smart people and insightful people and people that are well aware. My last video, which I said, just hear me out. I said it's important that we stop framing what happened in the Supreme Court as the end of birthright citizenship. I think that part was important. I stated my reason for that. I think mostly because nowadays I think a lot in terms of media communication, propaganda, etc., how information is passed down to every average, regular, schmegular citizen. And also in regards to what is actually happening. So what is actually happening, as you see, is that the Supreme Court is not only ruled for this president. I think that's the part that's important about this, right? Is going forward that injunctions should be specific to the plaintiffs, right? So let's again go back to the birthright citizenship. In this case, I believe 22 states sued, and those 22 states, it creates a very odd gray area, right? Where in those 22 states, Trump executive orders can't go in effect, and the other 28 states, mostly red states, I guess, it can't, right? But remember that the Supreme Court is operating under the interpretation that this executive order is technically legal. That's what they're saying, right? And they're saying that everyone else in the 28 state, either individual plaintiffs or the attorney generals, would have to sue for relief as well. What makes that weird, though, and I don't understand, like I'm with you, is right, they're essentially weakening the judicial branch. I think they're weakening their branch in an odd way, though. I think they're giving themselves as a Supreme Court more work, and people may have to sue. The actual birthright case might have to be heard by the Supreme Court itself, not whether or not the injunction can go in effect. So I just want to put that aside. But I say all that to say that what you are discussing, we would have to have that conversation as well on its own. In fact, I think we're having a conversation right now, right, on how much the Supreme Court just pretty much empowered Donald Trump in this term even further. But the reason, I guess, for me, and this is not really like an intellectual point, this is just for me as a thinker, is unless these mother effers plan on having power forever, and I don't put it past them, they do realize that let's use Biden, for example, right? Let's use Biden, for example, his last term with student loan debt relief, right? They do realize the same thing could apply if a liberal president comes in power next, right? Let's say Biden, a federal court ruled that, he didn't have the power to suspend, or to erase student loan debt. I'm sorry. And we had this rule in place. In certain states, certain liberal states weren't suing because if you remember, and if I remember, actually, I think it was about 2 to 3 states that sued on Biden's, student debt erasure, and they were red states, right? So I just think that what I'm trying to say is that there's gonna come a time when Psycho T is not in power, right? And then you're gonna have presidents who aren't gonna be handcuffed based on this ruling. Right, so it goes both ways, and I'm not happy about what you're saying. I just want to reiterate again that I think I was trying to communicate something that I think matters on the back end, which is when you keep, how do you gauge that? But I know because I do this internet thing. How do you gauge people saying over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that the Supreme Court said Donald Trump can proceed with the removal of birthright citizenship? That there's a cost to that. There's a cost to repeating that over and over and over again in the media. I think that was the overall, thesis to my essay.